This game has been played for over 100 years. It's a rivalry without rival. Soon, together, they will defend the nation they love. But on this day, allies become adversaries. 60 minutes lasts 365 days. The midshipmen have celebrated a record 12 straight victories, but there is no chance Army will go down without a fight.
I'm extremely tired of hearing about the streak.
This year we had the opportunity to start a new streak. Go Army, beat Navy.
It's a new year, a new team at Army. I'm not resting or relying on anything that happened in the past.
Bragging rights for their entire military is on the line. From Baltimore, Maryland, it's Army, Navy, the purest rivalry in sports. Stadium, Baltimore, Maryland, for the 115th time. Army squares off with Navy. And we are about 90 minutes away from kickoff, the game over on CBS. We've got you covered here on CBS Sports Network for another hour. It's Army-Navy Tailgate presented by USAA. Just outside the stadium here. What a scene, what a day for football. A rivalry that's been going since 1890. Brent Stover alongside three-time SEC Coach of the Year, Houston Nutt. Christian Fourier, an All-American tight end at Colorado. And a college football Hall of Famer, Randy Cross. We got 5 Super Bowl rings, by the way, between the two of them. So you guys have been in the biggest atmospheres. You've coached in some SEC title games, some Cotton Bowls, all that. This is an atmosphere, this is a game, Coach, unlike any other.
I love it. This is my second time. I just love the atmosphere. You can tell they're ready to go. The march on was outstanding. There's an attitude. You think of the words of the duty, honor, country, the service that they give to our country. What an example. They're the best.
And you think about, the regular season, how important it is for a lot of teams around the country. But it doesn't matter right now for Army and Navy. Doesn't matter if Navy is going to a bowl game. That doesn't matter. Right now, it's all about Army, Navy playing this game. They prep, they work, they bleed, they sweat, they give it all up. They sacrifice for this game alone. You go around town, that's all you hear about right now is Army, Navy. Go Army, beat Navy. Go Navy, beat Army. It works both ways.
And everything that happens out here, some great scenes here. Fans have a great time here for a couple hours before the game. Once you get inside, that's when you really appreciate what a bucket list kind of an event this is. The way the game goes, the cheering. Normal game, the students cheer, the cheerleaders cheer. This game, everybody in that stadium has a vested interest in what's going on.
We talk about with this rivalry and a lot of rivalries, throw out the stats, throw out the records, but there are a couple of key stats here. Ken Niumatalolo today has the chance to become the all-time winningest coach at Navy. He has a chance to become the first Navy coach to beat Army in his first 7 opportunities, as Navy goes for their 13th straight in a rivalry that's suddenly become a little bit one-sided.
I'm extremely tired of hearing about the streak.
It's one of those things that kind of hangs and looms over the game, but it really has so little to do with this year's game.
None of the games in the past have any bearing on this game. It's not like you can carry points over from last year's game.
Regardless of the past, we're both 0-0 against each other this year. And regardless of their record in the past 12 years, we both had the opportunity to come out 1-0.
Army's going to come out just as fired up as if they were the ones with the streak. So we have to come to play. Anything can happen in a rivalry game, and we're definitely not relying on that streak.
Get ready for the change. It's going to be a new era. Go Army, beat Navy. Go Navy, beat Army.
Well, Navy 6-5. They're going to play in a bowl game. Army 4-7. Trying to turn the corner under a first-year head coach who's got a really, really good resume, Randy, in Jeff Monken.
Well, and what he's done is he's come in and he's made a real difference. He's changed. You guys talked in the March On show a little bit about how the culture has changed at Army. Plus, physically, this team has changed. They're stronger looking. They're bigger. I was talking off camera to General Odierno. He's really impressed with how this team's coming along. Now, this isn't going to be an instant thing for Coach Monken. It's going to take him a year or two, but it'll be a lot more level playing field between Army and Navy years going forward.
Monken spent 4 years before this job as a head coach at Georgia Southern and had brilliant success. Speaking of brilliant success on and off the field, Keenan Reynolds, the Navy quarterback.
Well, he holds the NCAA records for touchdowns by a quarterback, and that's all nice and that's all good, and he's got the speed and he's got the athleticism. You can see him making plays, but what he doesn't get enough credit for, but how bright and how smart he is. He's like a point guard out there distributing the ball, whether it's Noah Copeland or Chris Swain. He's making sure those guys are in position, making those critical decisions at the utmost circumstance time. Those are key moments for Keenan Reynolds, and he is the catalyst to this entire offense.
Number 1 in the country in rushing for Navy, number 5 in the country in rushing for Army. They have a nice little ground game themselves.
They do. 305 yards per game. But watch this now. The offensive line for 9 consecutive weeks have been different, a different starting lineup. But here's the running backs. As seniors, Terry Baggett, 6 yards per carry. Larry Dixon over 1,000 yards. Raymond Maples. These guys are physical, tough runners. They know how to run the football.
It's going to be fun to watch. It always is. 4-7 Army, 6-5 Navy for the 115th time. This year it's in Baltimore, Maryland. Plenty more to come on Army-Navy Tailgate, presented by USAA.
Game day. This happens once a year.
I don't care if you make 1 play or 50. Be a playmaker out there.
Out here on that 100-yard field, it's smash mouth football.
Army on 3. 1, 2, 3.
It's important to us. This is who we represent.
The Navy.
Yeah.
Never give up. Never give up. Go Navy. Be the Army.
This game is a representation of the greatness that is our military. We come out here and we celebrate not our differences, but our similarities.
Picture, could you, at the start of this thing?
Reynolds, give inside. Copeland, Noah, into the open field, 30, 25, 20. Noah Copeland into 10, for the 5. Touchdown, Navy midshipmen, 39 yards.
Reynolds on the keeper. Watch out.
And a quarterback right there.
Reynolds touchdown. That's number 27 for the season. He still got it. Boy, does he ever. Touchdown, Keenan Reynolds. A new single-season record for rushing touchdowns by a quarterback. And so it ends. 12 in a row for the midshipmen.
What a scene in Philadelphia it was last year, and now this year Navy goes for 13 straight. Sheehan Stanwyck-Birch does sideline here on CBS Sports Network for all of the Navy home games, and she joins us now. Hey, Sheehan.
Hey, Brent. Glad to be with you. A leader among leaders, Navy's quarterback Keenan Reynolds has simply been rewriting the record books at Navy. An impressive feat, especially for a quarterback that flew under the recruiting radar, coming out of Good Pasture Christian High School in Tennessee. We recently went back to Reynolds' hometown of Antioch to see where it all began. For more, Adam Zucker has his story.
In the heart of Tennessee, just outside of Nashville, Antioch is the home of Navy's record-setting quarterback, Keenan Reynolds.
He's at the 30. He's going to go all the way. 10, 5, touchdown. Keenan Reynolds.
As a junior, he's already rushed for more touchdowns than any quarterback in FBS history, and his fan base back home could not be any prouder.
The amount of support that he has it's just mind-blowing. And it's people that he doesn't even know. I tell him all the time, you have a lot of people supporting you.
Everybody around here knows everybody. When we get back on Mondays, a lot of times some of our first discussions are, hey, did you see what Keenan did on Saturday?
just appreciate that they're watching him. And like, I have a teacher, she watches him too. So I really appreciate that.
With an 11-year age gap, Quentin certainly idolizes his older brother, but he's not the only one looking up to Keenan back home in Tennessee.
He's such a well-rounded young man, just a special charisma about him that just draws people to him.
Nobody really knew him when he started here as a freshman, and first week of the football season, he's our starting quarterback. The kid just doesn't get rattled.
He accounted for roughly 6,000 yards in his high school career. He started freshman year, never missed practice, never missed a rep in a game, never injured. He was really good at taking care of himself. The discipline he had bled over into those around him and inspired those around him to be the same type people and to be the best they could be.
Despite all of the high school accolades Reynolds received, he was not heavily recruited. In fact, Middle Tennessee State, just 30 miles away, passed on the undersized quarterback. But once Reynolds arrived in Annapolis in 2012, it didn't take long for him to get noticed.
As a true freshman, he came in well beyond his years in maturity as far as the way he's handled things. He's gotten a lot of notoriety and press, but it's like I told him, it was all well-deserved.
It has been a wonderful adventure. Things that I thought were what I should expect, it's gone beyond that, and it's surreal.
That quarterback rushing record that Keenan broke was previously held by Nebraska's Eric Crouch and Nevada's Colin Kaepernick at 59 touchdowns. Reynolds also has a good chance of breaking the FBS career rushing touchdown record by any player. Former Wisconsin running back Monte Ball holds that with 77 touchdowns. Reynolds still has 2 games remaining this season and all of next season remaining to do so. Brent, take it away.
Sheehan, and certainly he's an engaging guy. Kind of reminds us of Ricky Dobbs. He just carries on that tradition of just kind of having that way about him on and off the field. A guy that players, teammates, people are drawn to.
What a winner. What a leader. You want the ball in this guy's hands. He knows how to make good decisions, handle the ball for perfection, reads the tackle very well, knows when to pitch it at the last second, and he has over 1,000 yards rushing. Remember, this team, 9 out of 11 times, has gone over 300 or more yards.
Well, you talk about a quarterback, right? It's basically the CEO of the team, right? Everybody below him, whether it be the freshmen or sophomores, they're all looking to him for an example, and he leads by example, and he puts it into practice. And I tell you, anyone who's watching football today can watch Keenan Reynolds and take a little bit of something from him and put it into their own life because he's doing it the right way.
And if you watch Keenan Reynolds during the course of 2014, he had some physical problems. He had some injuries. He put the ball on the ground a little bit. He wasn't as accurate as he has been in past years. But the bad news, I think, for Army today is the last time I saw him against Georgia Southern at Marine Memorial Stadium, this kid was on the money. His accuracy was back, the passes were back, and that's what makes this Navy offense different, is they can pass the ball and get huge chunks with it.
749 and 5 touchdowns through the air for the Navy quarterback this year, over 1,020 touchdowns on the ground. General Dempsey, you ready, guys? Button it up. He joins us on the set next.
Inside College Football Army-Navy Tailgate on CBS Sports Network is being brought to you by USAA, proudly serving the financial needs of current and former military members and their families.
I've been in the Army 40 years. I didn't join the cavalry to be cool. I didn't become a tank commander, make a statement. I just liked it. Thanks, Bill. Go Army. Beat Navy.
That is absolutely phenomenal. It's General Martin Dempsey, U.S. Military Academy Class of '74, the 18th Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I thought that meant that you had to be down the middle, right, when you're the chief of staff, but that didn't look too down the middle to me.
That's about as down the middle as you're going to see me on this date.
How cool was that, and how cool is this?
No, it was great. I actually do have a cavalry background, and the Stetson I wore had the cross sabers of the 3rd Armored Cavalry Regiment, and I've always been very proud of commanding that unit. So this is great, and this event is always spectacular.
How special is this day, General, to someone that went through the academy, that went through everything?
You know, I'm in my last year, so you do get, you start to become a bit nostalgic. You realize you have to run through the tape. But I'd be really, really happy if in my last year of active service, the Army football team would beat Navy. So, I'm looking forward to the game today. I'm proud of both of them, but, obviously I'm looking for an Army victory.
I had the privilege to go to Baghdad to visit the troops, and I just can't say enough. We have the best of everything. And what does it mean now? You have a new coach, kind of a new frontier, a new era.
Yeah.
Talk about the newness of Coach Monken.
Well, first of all, we're all very excited about Coach Monken, about the system he's introduced, about the discipline he's brought to the team, about the spirit. Look, we all know we're going into this game with 12 years of baggage, right? But you may not know this, Randy Cross, but on this day in history in 1989, Taylor Swift was born. And she's got a song called Shake It Off. We're going to shake it off today.
Shake it off, huh?
Right.
I like that.
How about General Dempsey? Pop culture, anything. I feel like we could throw anything at you.
Lessons for Matthew McConaughey. What do you need? I'll give it to you.
Exactly. That's a takeoff, obviously, the McConaughey commercial that's out right now. In terms of the rivalry, and you said it before we came on the air, you want to put back in rivalry, even if you weren't an Army guy. Why the importance of making this? Because there's been a lot of close games down through the dozen years, but at some point you got to see the W.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I get asked a lot, why am I such an avid sports fan? And I'm a sports fan because sports is such a wonderful analogy for what we ask these young men and women to do when they graduate. You guys are either athletes yourselves or have talked about being sportsmen through the course of time. And it's all about, succeeding and failing, getting knocked down, getting back up. And it's who's there at the end of the game, right? And that's what we need. We need the kids in our line of work who are going to be there at the end of the game. Not at the beginning of the game, but at the end of the game.
You mentioned this being your last year. Would this be the year, the time to put on the pads, put on the helmet, have a chance to participate a little bit so you could look back on that experience?
Me?
A series left in you, I know.
Yeah, I'll be on the field for the coin toss, and you won't see me. I'll be obscured by all of the big bodies around me. The game has passed me by. Something special, though, about being here today in your last year, though, right? It's very special, And my wife and I have been going to Army-Navy games for, well, if you count the time at the academy, 44 years. And I never take for granted what a special day it is. I'm proud, honestly, I'm proud of anybody who puts on the uniform. These kids will serve together the day after today, but for today, it's Go Army, beat Navy.
Martin Dempsey, General, appreciate it. Awesome stuff. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Outstanding. Right. We love being part of this.
All right.
General Dempsey, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, joining us here on Army-Navy Tailgate, presented by USAA. Just over an hour before kickoff, the 115th version of this great rivalry. Plenty more to come.
Hi, I'm Rylan, and I'm in the Navy. Now, I know what you may be wondering. I'm not going to tell you who to root for. That's your decision. But I will tell you one difference between the Army and the Navy. And that is, in the Navy, we give a ship. To the fleet and to America.
I give a ship. Yeah, I give a ship too.
We all give a ship.
Now I know what you may be asking. What kind of ships do we give? All kinds. Carriers, destroyers, friendships, and most importantly, big gas ships.
Big gas.
What kind of ships does Army give? None.
I wish we gave a ship.
Yeah, I wish we gave a ship too.
These are outstanding.
You belong in that.
Yeah.
That's something you would be filming right there.
Oh, my goodness. Give a ship. Here we are in Baltimore, Maryland. They've been doing this rivalry since 1890, 115th meeting of Army and Navy. For the Naval Academy, there's a man in this game playing his second to final game for Navy. It's Ryan Williams Jenkins, one of the slot backs. His senior year has been marked by ups and downs, quite frankly. He was outstanding early on in the season, then a brutal injury, and then an excellent comeback just to add to the story. Here's an inside look at his season as well as his story, one that reveals the true meaning of the Navy brotherhood.
I remember I was back on kickoff. I thought I saw an opening, so I tried to jet through it really fast. And when I did that, there was a guy standing there. As I lowered my shoulder, he lowered his, and my face mask ran right into his shoulder pad and it collapsed.
Williams Jenkins from the goal line to the 10, 15. Whoa! Crush on special teams. My goodness. What a collision that time, and Williams Jenkins, and he is hurt.
And then it ended up breaking the orbital socket of the right side of my face.
Coach Niamadololo out on the field taking a look at his running back.
When I came to look at his face mask, it looked like he ran into a garbage truck. I mean, it's just, his whole face mask was dented in.
I literally couldn't see anything. That's actually why I didn't get up, because I couldn't see anything to get up. But when I went back, I went to my sponsor's house and we watched it a couple times on tape, and they kept scanning the sideline.
Mids on their field, in the shadows, all down on a knee, with concern for their teammate who lays down right now.
I could feel it right there, the brotherhood, because I really believe that my joy is their joy, my pain is their pain, and I was moved when I saw that.
Right, of course, one of the top ground gainers for the Mids this year, so certainly you lose a very productive football player in a situation like this.
Being away for 2 weeks, I basically was sitting around for 5 days, and I told my mom, I was like, I know y'all tell me that I never sit down, but these 5 days will be my sitting down for the year, because I can't live like this. Those 5 days taught me that you have no time to waste in life. I couldn't go to Air Force. I wasn't there physically, but before the game, I was like, there's something I can say, I feel like, or something I can contribute.
I received a text from Ryan before the Air Force game, and he copied the same text to Coach O'Rourke.
This text comes, and I started reading, and I'm like, wow. And he could have been pouting, he could have been moping, he could have been all those things that human nature tells you that's what you should be doing, and he was the opposite.
So please read to the team. I understand as a team we have been hit with adversity, but that is life.
He wanted them to know that he was with them, that he loved them. And his perspective is not thinking about himself, thinking of others.
I just felt like we needed to come together as a brotherhood.
The brotherhood is real, life is real, adversity is real. The measure of a man is how you respond.
I honestly believe the brotherhood is real, and I think it can transcend beyond just the field. And I think that's why the brotherhood is what we are, and why Navy football is Navy football. 1, 2, 3,
The next week, out on the field, he's like, I'll be back, I'll be back. You're like, okay, Ryan, just relax.
That was just hard, practicing and not playing, but I tried to prepare the best of my ability, full speed.
We're watching practice tape, and we're kind of, who's that running on the sidelines? It was Ryan. You could see Ryan Williams pretending like he's in on the play, but he's sprinting down on the sideline with the team and then coming back. None of us told him to do that. I mean, he did that on his own. In all my years of coaching, I've never seen anything like that before.
I might not be able to hit yet, but what the doctors say I can do, I'm gonna do.
It's just the mentality that he had that this is nothing. And then when he came back, it was like, he's for real. This guy's tough.
Keenan Reynolds, he's going to throw. Humps, has Williams Jenkins. He's got him at the 40. Ryan Williams Jenkins makes the catch.
If you're looking for a slot back, you're looking for a Navy football player, you'd look for Ryan. He's the guy you'd be looking for. He's a blueprint.
262 yards on the ground for Williams Jenkins. Obviously missed some time there, but still put up some nice numbers. One of 5 mids to go over 250 this year. That's a pretty nice spread, as we often see with this offense. The Navy offense, #1 in the country with the ground game. But how about his story and the perseverance in his final season?
I was there that day. I watched that hit. We replayed that hit. It was incredible, and like you saw from that great piece you just watched, that feeling, that love from his teammates. I mean, they wanted, you could tell just standing there and watching, they wanted to be there with him. They wanted to physically walk out and be there with him. They'd have carried him off the field if they'd let him.
What a story. And when that coach was reading the words, his words to the team, you could see it, the focus and that love between teammate and the unselfishness. And for him to be out there working out by himself as the plays are being run, outstanding young man.
I love seeing that. And people talk about football and they relate it to family. And I love the fact that they related this to a brotherhood, because in a family, you're born into it. They got to love you no matter what you do. In a brotherhood, you earn it with sweat, with tears, and that's exactly what he showed me.
All right, good stuff, guys. Well said. Let's check in once again with Sheehan, and she's standing by with a special guest.
Thanks, Brent. Joining me now is Wayne Peacock, Executive Vice President of USAA, a financial services company serving the military and his family since 1922, and also the presenting sponsor of the 115th Army-Navy game. Wayne, has been called the purest rivalry in sports. What is it about this annual matchup that makes it so special?
It's the essence of college football, right? These are folks out here that are playing because they love the game. They're playing for their teammates. They're playing for their branch of service. It's really America's game.
Now, you've been down on the field prior to the game. Is there anything like the pageantry that goes on at an Army-Navy game?
The pageantry is unequaled. You know, last night, the pep rally, cheerleaders, awesome. The march on today, 8,000 of the midshipmen and the Corps of Cadets out there. It's inspiring, and it gives you confidence that the next generation of leaders have chosen to step forward and serve our country.
Now, this is USAA's 6th year sponsoring Army-Navy. What does your company's affiliation with this event mean to you, your employees, and the more than 10 million USAA members?
It's just a perfect match for us, right? We've been around serving military families since 1922. The folks who are playing the game, the folks who are watching the game are our members. It's a family tradition, and like that tradition, USA membership is passed down from family member to family member. So just a perfect match for us.
Well, thanks so much for joining us today. Enjoy the game. Brent, back to you.
Wayne Sheehan, thank you very much. We are about an hour away from kickoff of Army and Navy here in Baltimore, Maryland. Jack Ford of the CBS Evening News and Showtime's 60 Minute Sports joins us on the other side. Stay with us. Welcome back on the field here in Baltimore, M&T Bank Stadium on a glorious day for college football. There's a reason Army and Navy get their own Saturday every season, something special. 115th meeting between these two legendary rivals. Jack Ford coming up here momentarily here on Army-Navy Tailgate presented by USAA. In his last game, Larry Dixon became the 4th cadet to rush for 3,000 yards. In his career, Dixon passed Heisman winner Glenn Davis to move into 4th on Army's all-time rushing list. The senior captain has had a storied career at Army despite his deep Navy roots.
As soon as you step foot on this campus, you notice something different. The history, you know, just everything that goes into this place. And I just wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to be a part of something bigger than myself. So once I came on a visit here, my mom knew and I knew that this is where I belonged. A lot of people from home didn't really understand why I would go to Army. I've always been around Navy people. Both my parents were Navy. My dad did 20 years, my mom did 24 years. So growing up, I lived on different Navy installations. When I go home still, people are like, you know, I hope you do great in the game, but ultimately, we hope Navy wins. I walk around with the Constitution in my back pocket or in my breast pocket. It means a lot to me. This helps me think about who I'm representing. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the country. It's just always there to help me get through the day. Just give me something bigger than myself to hold on to.
He carries around a copy of the Constitution? Yeah, I don't, only at West Point. I had no idea.
It's completely weird, but that's Larry for you. He always got a book in his hands. He really is motivated in all aspects of his life. He's our captain. You go back to plebe year, I mean, talk about someone who just comes in and immediately made an impact on the field. Rushing for over 3,000 yards in his career, over 1,000 yards this season. This guy is going down in history.
Breaks a tackle, Larry down to the 15-yard line as Army marches on.
Really cool to see Larry Dixon go over that career 3,000-yard mark.
It was a little bit surreal. They announced it over the intercom.
Dixon in some pretty elite company
all I could do was just look at my linemen and just look at the guys who were fighting for me in the trenches. Got to give enough recognition to everyone who I played with, everybody who just helped me get to where I am. It's awesome.
He's joined an elite group of men who've played here in the great history of Army football, and to be able to rush for as many yards as he has. I know this about him. Every one of those yards has been gained because he's been trying to win the game. He'd trade every one of those yards for more victories. I'd like nothing more for him than to experience a victory in his last game here against Navy.
Certainly it has for Larry Dixon been a storied career as Army tries to get this program back on the right track, get this rivalry back on the right track. They've lost 12 straight. Joining us now on the set is Jack Ford of the CBS Evening News and 60 Minutes Sports on Showtime. Jack, you just did a piece. I had a chance to watch it last night, about a 17, 18-minute piece called More Than a Game. You were basically embedded at West Point with the Army program over the last year. Tell us a little bit about it.
You know what? They gave us all access for a year. And the interesting, the genesis for this story, I wanted to do a story on 60 Minutes Sports about Army trying to resurrect Army football, and especially the Army-Navy rivalry. It came from last year at the Army-Navy game. I'm on the sideline, and a couple of former Navy players say to me, look, we can't say this publicly, but Army needs to beat us. And I'm thinking, wow, do you have Navy players saying that? So we went to the folks at West Point, and they said, come on in. And we chronicled Coach Monken from the very first day he was there, his first winter practice, spring practice, preseason. And it's interesting what he brought to this program. You know, it's not always reflected in numbers the first year. Coach, you know that. First year is the hardest. But it's a different feel with this Army team than they've had before.
I know, just looking at the roster and looking at specifically the line of scrimmage, it's a different Army team. They're bigger, they're more physical, and that's one of Jeff Monken's prime goals.
And it's discipline, Randy. You know, in the past, I've been to probably 20 of these games. In the last 4 or 5 years, Army would make a mistake, they'd fumble, you could just see them deflating. And in the very first game against Buffalo, we're there with our crew, third play, Army fumbles. But they didn't deflate. It was a different feel, and what he has them believing in themselves. He said an interesting thing, and you guys would appreciate this, coaches, players. He said, we got here, and the players said to us, just teach us what we need to do to win. We'll do anything you tell us to do to win, and I think Jeff Monken is on the right track for that for Army.
Jack, talk about Coach putting up the signs, beat Navy, which hadn't been talk about that.
I thought you'd appreciate that. We sat down and I said to Coach Monken, what's the very first thing you did when you got to West Point? And he said, I looked around, there were no beat Navy signs. He said, you know, when I was down in Navy, everywhere you looked, I don't know if you guys have ever had any contact with, emails end up with beat Army. And a phone call, they end up with, thanks so much, beat Army, and they disappear. So he said, I changed that the first day. So in the locker room, as you walk out the door, on the stadium walls, everywhere you look is a reminder of what's their most important goal this year. It says, beat Navy.
Jack, obviously for the last 12 years, there's been a war on terror going on overseas. I thought it was really interesting that you tied that into the piece as well. Talk a little bit about that, because the number of deaths in terms of folks from the Army as compared to folks from the Navy, there's a huge disparity which affects a lot of things, and you know what, it affects recruiting as well, let's be honest.
You know what, I was recruited by both Army and Navy in 1968, 69. I remember other coaches saying to me, because remember Vietnam was going on, I remember other coaches saying to me, you might want to think twice about going to those places because here's where you could end up. And I thought to myself, what sort of impact might that have? And if you look, the last 12 years, Navy has won every year. In those 12 years, there have been nearly 100 West Point officer deaths in Iraq and Afghanistan. Now Navy has tragically lost people too, but the number is about 15 or 16, not nearly as high. And I asked Coach Monken, I asked General Odierno, the Chief of Staff, that question, and General Odierno's answer was, look, I can't tell you that we might have lost some recruits that we wanted to come here, because as he said, when you recruit mothers. And are mothers going to be thinking of that? Sure they will. But he had an interesting response to it. So he said, we probably lost some players. He said, but you know what? That's who we are. This is what we're about, and we train officers to lead soldiers, and we can't shirk that, and we can't step away from it, but it probably is a factor to some extent.
Jack Ford of CBS Showtime as well, incidentally, had a nice little college football career himself. He's got the ring right there to prove it at Yale.
I sort of think I was going to show off with an Ivy League football championship ring, and then I see the one that this guy's wearing down here. And I'm thinking that's a little bit flashier than an Ivy football championship ring.
All right. Thanks a lot, Jack. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Jack Ford. Time now for a look at the day in the life of a cadet presented by the U.S. Army, and it's Joe Drummond. 0520, he's out of bed, wakes up, then treatment, breakfast, classes, homework, lunch, brigade staff, got meetings there. Hey, Coach, that's just part of the day. I mean, there's more to this. Team traveling meetings, football practice, hygiene, dinner, study, homework, lights out. Where's the fun? Where's the Seinfeld reruns?
Football is the fun. Football to these kids is the fun part. That's not on the list.
It should be fun today, then. It'd be a lot more fun for Army if they could get a win and stop this 12-game winning streak for Navy. We are inside of an hour till kickoff of Army-Navy in Baltimore. Plenty more to come on this show.
Sports Network and USAA salute America's veterans.
Historically, armies try to steal our ghosts and pull pranks on us.
When you lose 10 times in a row, I guess you resort to, stealing a goat.
Team Bill, it's our job to make sure that the goats don't get stolen. There's definitely a lot of pride. It's something that is a tradition at the Naval Academy, so being a member is definitely a big deal.
Bill said that we took them to a secret location. They're untouchable right now. A few years ago, there was a big fiasco with them trying to steal the goats, and we went up to West Point and tried to steal their llama, and police got involved and helicopters, so we try to stay away from that nowadays.
They're good around us, but in general, they're not good around people, so I hope that the Army people were stuck by their horns or were bitten.
I'd be pretty frustrated, too, if my football team couldn't scrape anything better than a 2-8 season. I might go after their mule.
A look at Ryan Williams. Jenkins just had an outstanding piece about his year. Kind of up and down, had a brutal injury in the middle part of the year, but he has rebounded, and now he's got the uniform on today and will be heavily counted on with the mids as they try to make it 13 straight over Army. Back here, Brent Stover, Christian Fourier, and we've got David and Mark Pimple, a couple of brothers. Once upon a time back in the 80s, you guys were a huge part of this rivalry. David, you're obviously, the uniform gives it away, still active. Mark, he's retired now. He's an old retired guy, huh?
He doesn't look retired.
No, he doesn't.
He could probably strap it on right now.
Quite frankly,
ready to go out there right now.
I'm going to be real honest, whether it's somewhere off the field, across to a different part of the world, or on the field, I would want both of you guys in my foxhole. I want to make that really
always
clear.
sucking up. I appreciate that. He's always trying to get you on his side.
Mark, we'll start with you and just talk about this scene, this rivalry, year after year. You had the opportunity as a player, and now you come back as a fan here.
Yeah, it is unbelievable. It's been 26 years, since I took the uniform off, the Navy football uniform that is, and this rivalry is just so special.
Neck roll.
It's a very special rivalry, and there's the passion and the intensity of the rivalry is unmatched. And I know we have a lot of fanfare and everything going on here, but you can play this game, anywhere, anytime, and that intensity between the two schools is just really special and, like I said, unmatched anywhere.
Now, you talk about the passion of the rivalry, the intensity, right? Let's talk about the shenanigans that I know that go on in a rivalry like this. Army versus Navy. Who's stealing whose mascot? What are you guys doing who's sneaking on whose campus, trying to, get some, bragging rights?
Yeah, that's the kind of things that the Corps Cadets and the midshipmen try to do, is they try to steal each other's mascot. They've got their donkey and we have our goats, and so they always try to do that. And if you're able to pull that one off, that's something that's real special.
How many years did you guys play alongside each other?
Just one. Mark was a plebe when I was a senior, but I'll tell you, being out in that arena is just something that really permeates what we try to do at the Naval Academy, also at West Point. When you really start to think about how it is that we take the practical aspects of what we do in the classroom and everything else and bring it on the field.
You have an older brother named Steve, also a Naval Academy grad. Your dad enlisted for a few years back in 1956. How cool is it that the whole family, this thing has been going for a long time.
Yeah, it's very special, a true family tradition, keeps us all real close, and it's just to have my dad, who was on the USS Valley Forge as a sailor. That was my first ship the Cruiser Valley Forge, and just a very
Different
special
ship.
family tradition that we all share.
And so my older brother Steve and my younger brother John, who chose not to go to the Naval Academy, I think after some of the shenanigans that you were talking about, he heard all the yelling going on, and he said, I'm going to do something else.
Now, your record against Army is what?
It's 3-1.
And Mark, yours is?
Now ours is 1-3, but I'll say if I was wearing Under Armour, it would have been 4-0.
It would have been a huge difference, right?
Wow. It would have been a huge difference.
Hey, where's our Under Armour stuff, by the way? This is the hub here in Baltimore.
This is it, right down the road. And I said retired in June, just started working for Under Armour. So what I like to say is I went from one winning team to another. And it's great to represent the brand and to be a part of that Navy tradition.
Let's be honest, guys. We're inside of an hour, about 40 minutes now from kickoff. Now, Navy's won 12 straight. There's kind of a buzz. I'm hearing it from different people, sources on my phone, that this might be the year that Army wins this thing.
I've been saying that for 12 years. So, hey, listen, there's nothing like it. You know, I mean, every Army team I've ever played, just incredibly tough. I mean, you really learn and gain a lot of respect on that football field. And what's really special is that once we're finished, we're brothers in arms. You know, and being able to be out there and actually serve alongside some of your Army brothers that you played on this field with, you know that you have something in common, and that something in common is to protect this country. So we're very, very proud of that.
Awesome. Way to wrap it up. Mark and David Pimpo, really appreciate you guys' service clearly and being a part of this thing with us.
Thanks. Great to be here.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
More to come. Back with Army-Navy Tailgates, presented by USAA, proudly serving the financial needs of the military, veterans, and their families for over 90 years. We're going to wrap up our show. Army-Navy Tailgate from Baltimore after this.